innovate, and create lasting impact. Well, I have a great special guest. Special guest. He will be my feature author of the month of March. He is a Wall Street Journal bestselling author, the Founder's Creed, five-time CEO, 60 plus angel investments, fear guru using the BOODA doctrine to help create 1,000 unicorns. None other than Mr. Patrick Sweeney the
Daniel, thank you so much for having me here, and to all your listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. I look forward to the conversation.
Welcome, Mr. Patrick. And again, can you please introduce more about yourself that I miss?
Sure. I've started 5 different technology companies with 3 successful exits, and I spent some time after college training for the Olympics in rowing. I was second in the Olympic trials in the one-man rowing, and then went back to business school and was in the technology space, building lots and lots of data centers during the dot-com days for a company called Trammell Crow, largest real estate provider. And then that's when I got the entrepreneurial bug. Like many of your listeners, I was doing a big, exciting, and very lucrative job. And I looked around and I said, I think there's a better way. I can see something in the future that's very different. And what I could see was cloud computing before anyone even had that idea. And so I started a company called ServerVault, which is one of the first cloud computing companies, the only one with a high enough level of security for banks and the government and that sort of thing. And Amazon Web Services, AWS, started about 4 years after we did. So that tells you how far ahead of the game we were. And that was my first big company. We merged it with another company, went through a bunch of ups and downs, but then ended up selling the merged company to QTS for $350 million. So it was a good exit for a lot of people.
Definitely, and thank you for that. Thank you for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world, Mr. Patrick. Thank you for empowering us. So today, let's talk about, or let's dig what is the entrepreneurship mindset is all about. Let's start with the origin story of mindset. Before the first business plan, what was the core personal this content or conviction that you have believed that the non-negotiable starting point for a true entrepreneurial mindset?
Daniel, I think the entrepreneurial mindset is that you have this belief, you have this incredible conviction that you can make the world a better place. You can make an industry better. You can make there's somewhere to improve. So I see a lot of different entrepreneurs, and I've worked with hundreds over the years, and in keynote speeches, thousands. And one of the things that that I think is most relevant, but not a lot of people talk about it, is if you have a belief, this belief isn't fluff, right? Belief is fuel if you use it well. That's why guys who start businesses, they might go out and they might think, okay, well, I needed a place to stay. All the hotels were sold out. I would have paid $25 to sleep on someone's couch. And so they start Airbnb. And they think the world can be a better place if you could get people to use all those unused bedrooms and beds and rent them out to complete strangers. And so they have this belief of the world and where it could be 5 years, 10 years from now. Everyone else is over here on the other side of the spectrum, and that's where the world is today. And true founders, true entrepreneurs who succeed know that they can make that vision come true. They can cross that gap from where the world thinks things are today to your vision of where it can be in 5 years or 10 years. I call that the belief gap. Now, one of the interesting things about the belief gap is if you don't have a strong enough conviction, you're not going to be able to convince internal supporters, employees and advisors and that sort of thing to cross that gap with you. And you certainly won't be able to convince external supporters, so analysts, investors, customers, but that's what you have to do to get across it. And the way you do that is with your conviction. I've seen a bunch of people. I work for a venture capital firm in Italy as an operating partner, and we had a deal come to us that I thought was quite brilliant. It was like a Dollar Shave Club, if you're familiar with that, Daniel, and
Mhm.
where they send you razors every month, but it was for women in their menstrual cycle. So it's Dollar Shave Club for tampons, basically. And I thought that's a really good idea, and they could really take advantage of something. And during the pitch, it was two guys, and I said, well, there's obviously a disconnect here between founding this company and your experience, expertise, that sort of thing. And they said, well, we just thought it'd be a good idea to make a lot of money. And I've
Mhm.
seen, and we passed on the deal, obviously, because I've seen a lot of people who are getting into entrepreneurship to make money, and they don't have that belief, they don't have that conviction, and they also most of the time don't have the knowledge or the specific details of a particular industry. So they've just come out of MBA and they think, well, I can start my own company and make millions of dollars. And let me tell you, and all your entrepreneur listeners know this firsthand, that there's a lot easier jobs out there than being an entrepreneur. So you can go be a banker or a consultant or an analyst, make just as much money, work half the hours. But being an entrepreneur, you have to do because you love it.
Yes, you love what you're doing, people. So, in your latest book or your upcoming book, The Founder's Creed, where chapter did you talk about entrepreneurial mindset?
Which chapter? Oh, Daniel, you're putting me on the spot now. I talked about it in chapter 2 and chapter 6 on the orientation. So there's one of the key things for the Buddha doctrine. This is in the book, The Founder's Creed. I introduce the Buddha doctrine. It's BOODA. Believe, observe, orient, decide, and act. And it's a loop. And as soon as you act, you get more data. So you have to change what you believe or adjust what you believe, and then observe it, orient, decide, act, and do it again. And so the velocity of that is what takes the chaos out of startups. And it's a structured system that starts with the Buddha loop, with that Buddha doctrine. And it's all about making high velocity decisions, because the only true mistake is in that static silence of inaction. And part of the action comes from how you look at the world, how you look at the problem, and that's called orientation. So excuse me.
Bless you.
There's going to be more than one. Sorry.
Bless you more.
All right, let's see if we can stop at 2.
Okay.
That's a first for me, Daniel. I don't think I've ever sneezed on a podcast.
Well,
Uh,
it's called authenticity,
yeah,
Master
there it is.
Patrick.
So the orientation component, which is where I talk about the entrepreneurial mindset. The entrepreneurial mindset has to have curiosity in it, because we have all these shortcuts in our brain. Our brain is incredibly efficient and also a huge energy hog, right? It eats up a lot of energy. So over the years, we've evolved to be very efficient and have a lot of shortcuts. Those shortcuts actually end up hurting us for modern day times, because we're no longer being attacked by saber-toothed tigers, right? Our
Hmm.
amygdala, the fear center, is running a 2 million-year-old piece of software. And it doesn't serve us well as entrepreneurs, because in entrepreneurship, we're constantly faced with moments of uncertainty. And uncertainty ruins our ability to predict. So it creates prediction error, as Carl Friston, a famous neuroscientist, refers to it. And the higher the prediction error, the more fear, the more free energy our body produces, which turns into fear. So orientation is all about curiosity. That second O in the Buddha loop is all about curiosity, and how many more different perspectives can you look at the same problem, so you make a better decision. And it also makes the case for diversity as well. So Daniel, you and I grew up in very different places. We had very different parents. We spoke very different languages. We've got very different skin color, very different brothers and sisters, very different education. And that's really good when it comes to the context of orientation. So you and I could make a much better decision in a lot of instances if our values are aligned than I could based on what I know. So that's the entrepreneur's mindset has to start with curiosity.
Curiosity indeed. So, Mr. Patrick, man, you talk about passion, but you emphasize the mindset of a problem finder. How thus shifting focus from what do I love to what inefficiency or injustice I can't stop seeing fundamentally rewire an entrepreneur approach.
I think, Daniel, for the most successful entrepreneurs, they've had that injustice, they've had that pain, they've had that itch themselves, and they have to scratch it. And that's the opposite of the guys coming in with the dollar tampon club, right?
Hmm.
The people who have had an itch, who say, I'm not sure what the a quick example is here, but let's say, I wish there was a way that I could automatically download my whole sales funnel anywhere I am in the world. And maybe that was the original idea that was behind Salesforce, is that you don't need to have all this information. You can put it up in the cloud, don't have to store it on site. You can access it anywhere and then start to do all sorts of data analysis. So someone came up with that problem, and with that problem, they found a way to solve it. They scratched their own itch. So that's one thing that I think brings the entrepreneurial mindset to a good company. The second thing is selling painkillers, not vitamins. So if someone has a really big problem, they need a painkiller. And that's what you want to be fixing. That's the pain, the problem that you want to solve. If someone's preventing something, and it's kind of like an insurance sell, if you're saying take these vitamins and you'll never get cancer, okay, they're going to sell it, but they're going to buy them, but maybe they'll forget to buy them 1 month and maybe they'll go back to it. But if it's a pain that they've got to solve, they're going to pay for it right now. So that's the second part of the entrepreneurial mindset.
Mr. Patrick, can you describe the moment you realized your identity had to shift from creator to a product service to a leader?
That's a good question. I would say for a lot of entrepreneurs, myself included, that's the first time you feel imposter syndrome. So,
Yes.
so that's a big fear for a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of CEOs. I've worked with 500 CEOs, including ones of multi-billion-dollar companies. I'm a member of Young Presidents Organization, YPO, and have given 50 plus speeches to hundreds of great CEOs, and I would say 80 to 90% of them have all had imposter syndrome at one time or another, as have I, for sure. And so it's natural if you're feeling it, if you're an entrepreneur and you're feeling, occasionally, what am I doing up here? Why are all these people looking to me? Well, it's because you're the one who hatched the baby, right? It's your idea, your passion, your conviction that got everyone there. And they're looking for you to build that belief. And that's the nature of belief is it's a contagion, right? If belief isn't shared, then it's just a hallucination. If belief is shared and multiplied, it's traction, and that builds momentum. And so as an entrepreneur, that's exactly what you have to be. And it usually, in my companies, if I look back, the first 3 or 4 employees, everyone was sort of doing all the same thing. And then maybe when you get to 10 employees, 15 employees, then you start having all hands meetings and things start to formalize, and you realize, wow, we've got a real company here. There's a chance to make a dent in the world. And that's when I think it hits you that after that 4, 5, 6 person company, when you get that 10 person company, when you have that first all hands meeting and everyone's staring at you, that's when you have to realize that, hey, I'm a leader that everyone's looking up to, and I'm going to lead by example, and I'm going to lead in a mindset to serve all of these wonderful people who are working with me.
Empowering answer, Mr. Patrick, and you need an applause for that. Thank you for
Thank you. Thank
empowering
you.
answer. So let's talk about the human and relational dimension. Entrepreneurship can be isolating. Being a mentor, what does your personal board of directors look like? What specific roles do you have in your circle to challenge and support your mindset?
So one of the things I have, and this is a structure that comes from YPO, from Young Presidents Organization, is a monthly forum meeting. And so I meet with 8 other CEOs, different industries, from replacement heart valve to data center construction, to one of the best Korean cooks. She's an Iron Chef and has a bunch of Korean restaurants. So it's a very diverse group of almost 10 entrepreneurs. We meet once a month, basically to go through our personal life, our business life, and then our family life. And so what that gives you, if you have a group like that, whether it's YPO, Young Presidents Organization, EO, Entrepreneurs Organization, Vistage, all of these different organizations can help you set up what a lot of people refer to as a mastermind group, and you can do it on your own as well if you're just starting out and you want to find, because you're going to be the average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with, right? That's how we absorb things. Our choices get reflected, and our information gets reinforced. So if you have a great mastermind group, really diverse, this goes back to the O of orientation, right? If you're getting different views on the world and you're all sharing it, a couple of things will happen. One, your orientation and decision making will get much better. 2, you'll reduce your fear of uncertainty, because you see all these other people going into the unknown and doing it with the mindset of opportunity, not the mindset of fear. And so I think once a month, if you can spend the day with some close people who are also trying to do the same thing, and talk very honestly and openly about where your fears are, where your concerns are, where your strategy is going, and do that in a very trusting, safe environment, I think that's probably one of the best things you can do to move your business forward.
Yes, definitely. So, Mr. Patrick, as an entrepreneur, what are your short term and long term goals?
Short-term goal is to get the Founders Creed published out and become a bestseller. And
Yes.
long-term goal is to help create 1,000 unicorns. So at least a couple of your listeners, Daniel, are going to be on my unicorn list. I have no doubt, because they'll get the book or ask me some questions or what have you. But those are the short-term and long-term goals, and I think that's where my purpose lies, is in helping entrepreneurs build their companies, leave a dent in the world, and make it a better place.
A better place for sure. And thank you for that, Mr. Patrick. Building your legacy is something else. Good luck to your goals and looking forward for more success. And what will your piece of advice for those people out there want to be entrepreneur like you?
So I would say there's no bad time to start. A lot of
Mm.
people look at entrepreneurship and they think, oh, well, if I work for a year, if I save some money, if the economy gets better, if you have an idea, if you have an itch you want to scratch, if you see something that could be better and you can envision the future 5 years from now, if you understand, here's a great tip for people who want to start a company. If you see a technology breakthrough and an inflection point in how we do something, and then you can move ahead a couple of steps to how you could put that to work in a new business, then you'll have an amazing business. So I'll give you a quick example of that. I play ice hockey, and
Mhm.
I play on a beer league team, and I grew up watching Boston Bruins hockey. And my dad would turn on the TV at whatever 7 o'clock. We were supposed to be in bed. I'd sneak down the hallway and hide behind his chair and watch the Bruins game. I'd always fall asleep like into the first period. So it wasn't a surprise that I was there, because he had to carry me to bed. But one of the things that was awful as a little kid watching on this old TV was you could barely see the puck. And so the puck was moving from, from side to side. And at one point, Fox TV tried to put like a neon tail on the puck so it would be easier to follow. It was awful. And so hockey, which is an incredibly fun game, active, lots of action, lots of movement, lots of speed, in person is all, the Boston Garden always sold out. It was always full no matter what, but they had terrible TV ratings. So then what happened is HD TV came out. So 1080 resolution on the TV. All of a sudden you could watch hockey and you could see the puck. And it was like, wow, this is amazing. So if you look at the growth of hockey and you tie it to the growth of HD TVs, you'll see this almost perfect correlation. So that's a great example of how, if someone thought, about TV rights for hockey, or about creating a hockey broadcast network, or something like that, because of that innovation, that's an ancillary effect, or a knock-on effect from that technology innovation. So if you look at, and I'll give you one more quick one, because a lot of people talk about this and it's great. iPhone 4. iPhone 4 dramatically changed the world because of one thing. Daniel, I'll let you have a guess at it. Do you know what it is?
Well, the scrolling.
No, no, it was the GPS chip. So
Oh,
iPhone
yes.
4 was the first iPhone with the GPS chip that enabled Uber, right? That
Yes.
enabled delivery services, that enabled Find My Friends, that enabled Snapchat, everything else. That technology innovation of Apple putting a GPS in a phone changed the infrastructure of apps everywhere. So if you can think like that, if you can think, okay, AI is doing this, agentic is doing this, the edge network is going to look like this. What pain can I solve using these new technologies that hasn't been thought of? That's your unicorn opportunity.
Yes, I hope I can solve that unicorn too, Mr. Patrick.
Absolutely.
Let's work for that. So let's talk about the broader implication and legacy. And thank you for that advice. If entrepreneurial mindset is so powerful for creating ventures, how can its core principle like problem finding or resourcefulness and calculated risk taking be applied to tackle large scale of social and systemic problems?
Hmm. Uh, I think that the systemic problems are oftentimes there still, especially if there's a large bureaucracy involved, they're
Mm,
still because of fear, right? There's in big companies, in government opportunities, there's always this mindset of, that's the way we've always done it. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, right?
nope.
And people are afraid. So I think that keeps some of these systemic problems perpetuating themselves. I think if you can take that Buddha doctrine and you can create that belief, that's probably the big first step, because you've got to get people to join you on that, crossing that belief gap. And that becomes a big problem, but it has to have a big benefit to go with it. And I think that's the key thing. A lot of people, if people send me an email or an introduction that says, I would really like to, or I'd love to do, I'd love this, I want this, I don't care what they want,
Mm-hmm.
right? Nobody cares. It's always with them. What's in it for me? So every time someone sends me an email and says, hey, I've got this really interesting opportunity that's right up your alley. Okay, I'll read the email. And that's what we should think about when we're trying to make change. If you're going to make change and convince people, then what's in it for me? Because you might have a huge belief gap to cross. You might be General Motors, and on the other side over here is this guy who thinks he can build an electric car that's faster than a Porsche, that goes 200 miles on one charge, and that costs under $35,000. And the rest of the world, that's Elon Musk's view for 10 years from now. And the rest of the world is saying there's no way. We can't even, General Motors can't make a car. Hybrids are just out. And so that belief gap, you've got to cross with conviction. You've got to cross with the ability to convince people what's in it for them, that this future that you envision is something that they should join you on the journey for.
Definitely interesting, Mr. Patrick. But before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people. My other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in sixth season, abstract poetry in third season, and my book 101 review in sixth season as well. Comedy 101 in a third season, and my food 101 in sixth season too. Geography 101, love letters, movie 101 review, music 101, fourth season, science 101, sex 101, third season, trivia 101, law 101, mental health 101, motivation 101, entrepreneurship 101, Bible verses 101 are my baby podcasts. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcasts. So, Mr.
Daniel,
Patrick,
I gotta ask you, because I didn't
yeah.
know this on the last podcast we did. Your big successful podcasts are all 6 years they've been running, which is super impressive. But
Mhm.
Sex 101 is only 3 years. Where's that gap there?
I was thinking before, because people love doing sex, but they hesitant to talk about it. They said, why
Mm,
not? And I
yeah.
was at the time I'm thinking one of my favorite podcasts, Sex with Emily. Why not? I cannot create this podcast. So I did created Sex 101.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yes. So, Mr. Patrick, if you had to distill the entrepreneurial mindset down to one non-negotiable daily habit and one non-negotiable core belief, what would they be?
One non-negotiable core belief is I can be successful. I'm good enough. I can do this. If anyone else can do it, so can I. It's just as easy to start $100 million startup as it is to start $100,000, small business. So you can do it. I would say that's the initial piece, to tell yourself, or to tell yourself every day that you're good enough, you can do it. To do every day, I would say, this is going to surprise most people, I would say exercise.
Mm.
Because many entrepreneurs, and I was guilty of this myself, end up not taking care of their bodies and the system that's carrying around that big brain. And they end up getting sick, getting hurt, making bad decisions. It doesn't matter. So I would say, if you exercise every day, one, it's going to help you think better, because there's a lot of great neuroscience studies that show when you increase your heart rate, when your blood flow increases, when you get more oxygen to your muscles and your brain, then you make better decisions and smarter decisions, and you have more energy, and it helps build your mitochondria and helps you live longer. So I would say, tell yourself you're good enough every morning. Tell yourself you can do it no matter what, because people in your position, no matter what position that is, have done great things. So why not you? And then exercise, do something, get your blood flowing, go for a walk. I do a lot of my meetings with companies I'm working with, walking around outside, particularly if I'm in a nice city like Milan or Boston, and it's great to walk around and have a meeting as you walk. So those would be the last two things I'd leave you with.
Yes, and thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. Mr. Patrick, a Wall Street Journal best-selling author and the Founder's Creed. Can you please invite our listeners to support your upcoming book, The Founder's Creed?
Absolutely. I would love everyone, and I think you'll get a lot out of the book. I think there's some really interesting stuff, some new scientific evidence, and some new insights. You can pre-order the book now at a 25% discount on thefounderscreed.com. And for anyone who enjoyed the conversation, who'd like to engage on LinkedIn, it's Patrick Sweeney, or my handle on LinkedIn is The Fear Guru. And it's the same on Instagram, The Fear Guru. So please feel free to ask questions, reach out, and tell me when you become a unicorn.
Yes. I want to be a unicorn. Mr. Patrick, yes, people, let's support Mr. Patrick Sweeney, because if you support him For sure, more and more best-selling books will rise, and of course, more and more empowering advocacy will be implemented. So, Mr. Patrick, I have one more question. Ultimately, is the entrepreneurial mindset a means to an end, or could the cultivation of the mindset itself to be considered a primary reward and legacy of the journey?
I don't think it's a means to an end at all. I think having that mindset of curiosity, having that mindset of optimism, having that mindset of resilience and grit, all the things that it takes to be a great entrepreneur, to be a leader, to be caring about people on your team and your customers, all those things that make a great entrepreneur, make a great person. And your legacy, a lot of people think, well, I get to the top of the mountain and I'm successful. Your legacy isn't standing on the top of the mountain. Your legacy is the map that you leave. So hundreds, thousands, millions of people behind you can climb the same mountain and get to that summit. And I think your entrepreneurial mindset ensures that when you're done creating companies, you go out and you try and make the world a better place, and you use those skills you learned as an entrepreneur and you honed as an entrepreneur to make the world a better place.
A better place indeed, Mr. Patrick J. Sweeney II. Thank you so much for your time.
Daniel, thank you, and thank all the listeners for spending time with us today. Really appreciate it.
Welcome, people. See you soon.